Okay, hi everybody. We're going to continue our second part of painting here, and we're going to mix what we call tints, tones, and shades. And so we're going to do it for each color. Our primary colors for sure, red, blue, and yellow. And then we'll also get into orange, purple, and green. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this just with the color red, just to kind of start off because it's easy to use because we can go straight out of the tube here. So just a couple extra more tips while you guys are painting. Make sure maybe you use clean out your water if it's looking pretty muddy. Make sure you got your towel here. Make sure it doesn't have any wet paint on it. Make sure you guys are also wearing clothes that you don't really care about, because sometimes paint will splatter here and there. And also you guys can clean off your palette, or make sure you guys have room on your palette here. Okay, so for each color, give yourself about a quarter size of some paint here, maybe a dime size of black, because we don't have to use that much black, and about a quarter size of white. This one started running here, and leave some space in between just for some mixing here. Okay, now get started. If you guys are starting anew here, just make sure you guys activate your brush with just a little bit of water, tap it, and clean off the edge there. And we're going to start off with a shape, and I did a circle. You guys can kind of copy my design here. See if you guys come up with some different designs, maybe using some squares. About a quarter size splotch here. And just for this one, we're not mixing, but really recommend trying to practice painting with some nice clean edges. So again, what you guys don't want to do is kind of little chippy lines as you go through. I mean, you can get away with that. Try to practice on doing the edges first, and a nice fluid stroke as you go through. Okay, usually when you do a nice fluid stroke, you get a lot done and your edges come out cleaner. So when you do that, you're putting a little bit of pressure on the brush so it kind of flattens out a little bit. It's kind of hard to go in different directions here. Okay, and you're pretty good. So let that brush flatten it out a little bit. Work that edge, nice fluid stroke, and then fill the inside. And try to sweep your paint if it's starting to get really gloppy. I'm trying to fix this edge here. Okay, gotta fill that in. Okay, all right. And clean that out. Kind of get that paint out of there, so the brush doesn't start getting really congested with a lot of paint. Kind of want to keep your brush like this, you get a nice clean brush. Okay, so what we're gonna do first let's go with tints. So tint is just adding mixtures of white kind of for a value scale, but we're not doing gray or black for that value scale, just purely white. Okay, so it's gonna go like super light red to a little bit darker of a light red, I guess. So I always got confused kind of back in the day of tinting, because I always thought of like tinting your windows, which was darkening them up. So I never could remember, like, okay, what is it? Tint. I'm always thinking like tint of red is a darker red, because that's what people do. They tint their windows. But in fact, it's adding white, and just only white for the tint. Okay. We'll get into tones, which are various shades of gray in between, as many as you can. Okay. So we got to use a light gray, a medium gray, and kind of a darker gray. We got to mix those first, then add it to the color. And then shades. So to do different various shades of red, we're adding maybe just a little black to a little bit more black to a lot more black, and seeing how the color comes out. Okay. So let's start off with I'm gonna add just a little bit of red off to the side here, so I don't kind of mix this whole part here. Okay. And I'm just gonna use this part of white, and we'll kind of get lighter and lighter as we go. So I'm just gonna add just kind of like a dot of white here. Okay, now this time, I'm adding white into the darker color, which you usually don't want to do. Okay, let's add, because you'll notice that as I'm doing it now, to see any change, you're gonna have to add a good amount here. All right, so that looks pretty good. It's kind of nice rose color. You can tell the difference here. And I got a smaller circle here. Got a good amount of paint in my brush for mixing. And do another dot. Okay. And again, I want you guys to kind of do some shapes here rather than just paint splotches, just to practice clean edges, because we'll need it for our final here. So I don't care what shapes you guys do. Just kind of doing a standard circle. You guys can copy me if you want. I don't care. All right, so there's the rose. We're going to continue to use the rose color. We'll add some white. Maybe just kind of just pull this off just right here. Okay. Make sure we got enough. Here, notice I just kind of sweep the edge. I'm not going right into the middle here. So I can use this later on. Okay. And a lighter rose. I don't know, just for design wise, maybe just a little bit smaller or same size. Okay. And then let's add just a lot more white here. Just kind of pull this off just for like a really, really light pink. So twirl your brush, really get that color mixed in your brush too. And we can see that. I just kind of want to add we'll make this really light pink so we see the differences here. Also keep in mind too, you might see the differences really well now, but as they dry, paint does start to darken up, and so sometimes it'll start looking the same. I'm gonna make this circle a little bit bigger than I had it sketched out. Okay, and that's it. Should see the 3 different steps there, and that's tints of red, just using white. Okay, and clean out that brush, wipe it on the towel there, off to my left. Now I'll do black. Okay, so I'm gonna pull some red off over here. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm using a styrofoam plate, it's kind of shiny. Okay. Kind of clean up that paint just a little bit just so it doesn't get too gloppy. And let's see, I'm gonna build up from like the lightest shade of red and to the kind of darkest shade of red. And so, let's see, I'm just gonna add a dot of black, kind of mix area. Remember, black really severely overpowers these darker colors here. So really when you add, you can see how much this has changed already just kind of with that dot of black. Just add just a little bit here because you want some of the red to show through. Probably went a little bit too dark there. Let's see. Now I'm going to do that one more time. Okay, I'm probably going to keep that for my middle one here. So I'm just going to pull off just a little bit more red here. I just want to slightly change the color. Anytime people are using shades of color and mixing, just too much. So I'm literally gonna put a dot at the end of my brush, like barely see it, and then mix that in. There we go. That's what I want. Okay, so this is gonna be my lightest shade, which is funny using the word light, but okay, so it's gonna give it a different aspect here. Fill that in. All right. Now I already have this one mixed, so I'm just gonna wash that out. Okay, kind of use this for my medium color here. This one's really dark. You can see how much darker that one is. But still, it's got that reddish. You can tell that there's red in there. Kind of almost looks purple. Sometimes, depending on the different types of reds you use, all of us will not be using the same red maybe, unless we got the same brand. But even with same brands, I've noticed that colors kind of change. It's hard to kind of keep colors consistent. Same brand, same color name, you buy the same color, you know, 3 months later, it might be a little bit different. All right, so I'm gonna add a little bit more black to this. And just kind of offshoot this side here. I don't want it to come out too black, so I'm gonna continue mixing in some of the red. Just the whole thing here. Kind of like, this is a dark maroon. Should kind of get a maroonish, brownish color. Okay. Really fill that in. Okay. Try not to make it look so choppy, just kind of clean up the edge there. All right, now we got, those are the shades, and you can see how much different it is from the tints. All right, now we get kind of to the hardest one here, and these are the tones, because now we have to mix grays first before we start mixing in the reds, and it depends on how much red we mix in. So let's go with the lightest tone first. Okay, so we're going to go kind of a good amount of white with just like the slightest of the dot of black here. See if I can just kind of scoop one up just on the tip of my brush here. Mix that in. Okay, it's a light gray. Okay, and then just to make sure, let's mix in a little bit more white. We're kind of go like a mid-tone gray. Okay, maybe just another dot, maybe just a little bit bigger dot here. Make sure that one's a little bit darker. Okay. And if it's not getting dark enough, just add just a little bit more. Okay, just like literally just like if you see like black on the end of your brush, you're good to go. It'll help. Okay, now I'll go ahead and use this one and add like kind of a good chunk of, so bigger dot. Okay, kind of a nice darker type gray. Okay, all right, so light. We can probably actually go lighter than that. Medium gray, kind of darker gray. Could probably go a little bit darker than that. Let's try that. Okay, there we go. Clean that out. Now, when I'm mixing the color, I don't want to add red to the gray. I mean, it's gonna totally desaturate the color. I want to add the gray to the red, so I'm going to just kind of pull this off here. Kind of try to keep it organized. And kind of mix this lighter gray that I have in here, the red. Give it this grayish tone, maybe a little bit more. Lighten it up. And something in between. There you go. All right. So it's a balance of what you mix in, like how much color you want, the hue, versus how much the value you want. So just a little bit lighter. And I'm gonna use a smaller one for the lightest. You see how it's pretty dark-ish, but it's a light gray. Okay, clean that off. Let's do it this way. We'll add some of the red. Hopefully you guys are seeing that. Just kind of to the edge of the gray here. You know, that'll be a little bit better. Okay. Let's add a little bit more red. There we go, kind of rosy color. Just a little bit more red. Really mix it all the way around, like kind of spin your brush as you guys are mixing too. Kind of rotate as I go just to make sure it's all through that brush. And let's go that middle color gray, mid-tone red, gray. Pick up just a little bit more, just kind of clean up those edges. Okay, and then let's go with the darker gray here. A good amount of red. Mix it in to this darker gray. Don't let it gray out. Still keep that color in there. We're just kind of softening, desaturating the color. Okay, right there. And here will be our darker gray. Clean up these edges here. All right, and so there we go, we're finished. Kind of cool design. We got the pure. Let's call this the hue. Okay, this is pure red. That's hue is the pure color. We have our tints over here. We have our tones. And we have our shades. Okay, so we're gonna do this for each color. It's gonna take quite some time, but we're gonna get a lot of practice mixing paint and painting here. So I'm gonna do a little time-lapse version of doing the yellow and the blue as well. And then I'll show you guys how to color mix for the secondary colors with the implications for that, for orange, purple, and green.